Welcome to this edition of Morgan Asked For podcast. This one's going to be short and sweet. I apologize for my voice. I've been sick off and on all week here, trying to get this through. We are here early Thursday morning, so that's a little bit later. I am solo. Trevor's still out, and just the way everything worked out. Solo. This episode is going to be, I'm going to talk about, I've been sick, so sickness running wild. Okay, so this one. Sickness, obviously, it's the time of year where the weather is changing. It's finally starting to get cold here in Iowa, and several people are dealing with the allergies. We're getting the first frost, and it's just a change in weather. You still want to wear shorts and maybe a hoodie or your T-shirt and shorts, and so you're trying to soak up the last few, nice days out where you want to be outside, but you're not dressed maybe appropriately. So, just a lot of people getting sick, and it's just that time of year. We're getting close to the holidays. Halloween is tomorrow night. Then we get with Thanksgiving and Christmas. When people gather together and start spending more time inside, that's when the sickness happens. But also sickness in the college sports world right now. I think a sickness that's happening is, impatience, greed, and just the unwillingness to be patient enough to let someone succeed, or at least let someone finish a season. We had another coach get fired this week, and Brian Kelly at LSU. Now, there's a lot of things you could say about Brian Kelly, and maybe he should be fired for those reasons, but it's not wins and losses. Yes, he's lost 3 games. Yes, he hasn't been to an SEC championship game. Yes, he hasn't been competing for a national championship, and that's the expectation. And I think that's going to be LSU's downfall when they try to hire their next coach. They are so, just bent up on winning a national championship. And I understand their last 3 head coaches have all won a national championship. Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron. But in the Les Miles situation, the Ed Orgeron situation, and now Brian Kelly, those coaches all ended up getting fired. Obviously Brian Kelly never won it, but Ed Orgeron, 2 years after he won a national title, not even 2 years after he won a national championship, he got fired. Les Miles got fired. Then Nick Saban obviously went on to the Miami Dolphins before coming back to college football and having all the success at Alabama. Florida wants those same expectations, and Penn State wants those same expectations. So, in my opinion, those coaches that take that next job have to know that it's much more like the NFL, where you get 4 years, 5 years, get your program turned around, get your players in there. But with NIL and the transfer portal, much more like with the NFL, 1 year, 2 years. If it's not working, they're going to get you out. The next thing is the big money buyouts. Unfortunately, I do not think it's going to change, because I do think LSU, Florida, Penn State, they have to make the phone calls to Nick Saban and Urban Meyer. And some of it is LSU, Nick Saban was there. Florida, Urban Meyer was there. Those are the 2 most successful coaches of the last, quarter century, last generation. And it's not close. They're so much better than everybody else that, you've heard that LSU is going to offer $15 million to Nick Saban a year. Yeah, that's a lot of money. If he takes that job, he will win, and he will win very fast. It's just how long, he's not going to be there that long. He's 72, 73 years old. Urban Meyer, he never sticks around anywhere too long. He is so 100% in every day that his health can't take it. And he's getting older. He's not that old, but he's getting older. And so it's going to be a short fix. I do not think either one of those 2 guys take those jobs, but I think those jobs will be given to somebody that those guys recommend. Whoever is making the hires at each spot, which that was an interesting thing yesterday. The Louisiana governor came out and said that the LSU athletic director is not making the hire. Now, I understand why, because that AD hired Jimbo Fisher and signed that contract and then hired Brian Kelly. So on his books right now is over $100 million paying a coach to not coach football. So I understand why the governor is doing that. But can you imagine here in Iowa, if something happens and we tried to fire Kirk Ferentz or Matt Campbell, and Kim Reynolds came out and said, Jamie Pollard or Beth Getz is not making the hire. It's just not how it works, but it's different in Louisiana. And that's what makes that job the best job and the worst job available, in my opinion. Another sickness running through college football, and I'm going to use Iowa State, and it is running through Iowa State, is just doubt. You're 5-0, everything's going well, but the injuries start to happen, and you get punched right in the mouth in the first quarter at Cincinnati. And unfortunately, you never recovered. Just the way it is. You got punched. You're Mike Tyson against Buster Douglas, and Buster Douglas got you. And you are down for the count, and you haven't gotten back up yet. Will they do it this week against Arizona State? We'll see. Tyson, the receiver, is doubtful, I think, as what I saw on the report last night. And then Sam Levitt, their quarterback, is not going to play. So Jeff Sims is coming in. Jeff Sims is a 6-year player at Georgia Tech, at Nebraska, and now at Arizona State. So it's not someone that doesn't know how to. He just hasn't had tons of success and moved around a lot. Iowa State plays decent football for a lot of a game, but those last 3 games, they just make critical mistakes at critical times, and the other team just makes them pay for it. They can't get off the field on 3rd down. I'm going to disagree with Chris Williams a little bit. He thinks this is all on the offense, that why we're losing these football games, or almost all on the offense, where they're not scoring touchdowns. And I 100% agree. 500 yards of offense and you only score 24 points, that's not good. You should score 31, probably 38 points. Well, even if you score 2 more touchdowns, you give up 41. Now, some of it is they had a pick 6 in there. Just things happen. They had the punt where it touched the guy and had a short field. So you put the defense in a bad spot. So a couple of mistakes, I understand where it probably does flip the football game to Cyclone's favor, but they still happen. But when it is 3rd and 8 or longer, it seems like Iowa State gives that up more than any team I can ever remember. And this isn't a just this year thing. And Chris Williams has said this on Cyclone Fanatic and Iowa Everywhere, which those are great guys, and I really listen to them, and I love what they talk about. But if you're better at 3rd and 3 than you are at 3rd and 10, something is wrong. Something is wrong. So whatever it is, you need to fix it. Put more pressure on and you can't do the same thing every time. Or your zones have to be a little bit different, or because something is wrong with the 3rd down and long defense. And it's not just because we have injuries in the secondary, or last year we had injuries at linebacker. It is a schematic problem, in my opinion. Because at 3rd and 3, we're pretty good. We play good, solid run defense. Now, you're never going to stop someone 100% of the time, but there was a 3rd down last week where the quarterback just threw it up, and we just can't make a play. I mean, and maybe some of it is just our players aren't as good. And then this gets me back to the other thing on offense, where we're having some people. I'm going to pick on one guy, and I'm going to pick on Aiden Flora. He was involved in some of the biggest plays of the game that went against Iowa State. Now, I do think he is our best punt returner. So I'm not going to say replace him there. But he has to do a better job of communicating with Benny Nagoye and his entire team to get away from the football. Whether it's Fire or Peter, whatever your call is, you got to scream it, scream it, scream it. These are big, loud stadiums. You can't just say it one time and expect everybody to hear it. But the other one is there's 2 other plays. Very early in the football game, he's running down the sideline right at where I'm at on the home team sideline, and Rocco Beck misses him on a long pass play. And then towards, the end of the game, Rocco Beck hits him on the far sideline, again on the same sideline, but far end of the field, away from where I sit, hits him right in the face mask. This is my point. He is the 3rd string running back. He does not have the practice time. He does not have if he was the best player, he would be the starting running back. and you have two really good ones. Why is he in the football game? Use your two guys that are the best. Another time we're down at the goal line. We struggle to score touchdowns. Our two best tight ends, they're both 6'6", 6'7", 250 pounds. They're great targets near the end zone. They come running out, and two backup, our third, fourth, or fifth tight ends are in the game. Why? Use your dudes. That is my big critique with the offense right now. I think we're playing too many guys. Actually, was just driving to work here this morning. I was listening to Matt Campbell from Monday. I'm a little behind on my podcast and listening this week with being sick and stuff. I've spent more time sleeping than a lot of things. But it's – and they talked about maybe playing a few too many guys. And same thing at receiver where – last year, Higgins and Knoll, which they are better than anybody we have now. They're second and third round picks. I understand that. But they were in every week, every play, almost every play they were in. So Rocco had the practice reps, knew where they were going to be. Now, one time it's Edskolson and Eli Green at the two receiver spot. Another time it's, Sewell and Townsend. And everybody runs routes just a little bit different. Everybody does things just a little bit different. That's no one's fault. Everybody's different. Their body type's different, their way they move, their speed. But that's a lot where, Rocco's trying to read the defense and get everybody in the right spot. And then he's got to say, well, this time it's Eli Green, and this next time it's Xavier Townsend, and the next time it's Brett Edskolson, and the next time it's whoever it is. And I remember when I was there and Sage Rosenfels was the quarterback, and we had a receiver that he was different in a game than he was in practice. And you had to know that. He goes, I have to throw it a full, step and a half, yard and a half farther in a game than I do in practice because he goes harder in a game than in practice. Now, that's a whole different argument where you need that guy to practice just like he plays. But he had to learn that. That was so interesting. And he was our best receiver too. I mean, he was really good. But Sage is like, when everybody's adrenaline's going, I throw it a little bit farther. I throw it a little bit harder. He knew that too. I mean, and he's a 10-year NFL guy. So just when you don't have those same amount of reps, and I just think that is a huge piece to maybe not being as crisp on offense. And going back to the defense, the defensive line has to do something different. There's something now we brought a little bit of pressure. Will McLaughlin or Carson Willich, I can't remember which one of them, got a couple sacks early in the game, bringing pressure from a linebacker position. And that's great. And you got to keep doing that. But sometimes you just have to go beat your guy. You can't tell me that offensive lineman is better than you every single pass play, that you can never, ever get a pass rush. Are they going to beat you more times than not? Probably, maybe so. They're really good too. But you can't tell me that one time out of 50 pass plays that you can't beat your guy and get a rush and just make a play. That's what Iowa State is lacking. Is they need someone just to step up and make a play. The defense isn't getting any turnovers. That's another thing. Go get a pick. Force a fumble. Pick it up and score. Makes Carson Hansen on a 65-yard touchdown pass, somebody block for one more second so he can score a touchdown instead of get tackled at the 10-yard line. He's not going to be the guy that races to the end zone from 65 yards. That's just not him, and that's okay. But if everybody blocks their guy for one more second, then maybe he does. It's the little things, the margins, as Coach Campbell told us about it. Then the last thing I'm going to talk here about is the sickness of hope. I don't know if any of you guys, and I suggest is on YouTube, SEC Shorts. Every week they come out Monday morning with a 5 to 10 minute video about the SEC conference, and they make fun of coaches and fan bases, and it's really funny. I love watching it Mondays. But they have this character that Georgia and Alabama and everything is, and she's called Hope. And Iowa might, I think, some of their fan base is running into the sickness of hope. They're hoping, hey, they're seeing the bright lights, 10-2, undefeated the rest of the way, have a chance to get to the playoff. And that is factually true. If they beat Oregon, beat USC, beat Nebraska, and whoever else they have, and they finish 10-2, they are right in the mix. They probably will actually get into the playoff, I would think. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look a little bit deeper into that. But they're going to be right. If they're not in the playoff, it's going to be like South Carolina last year. They're going to be one of those first teams out. But, and on these videos, it's always big on Georgia. Whenever Georgia sees hope, he runs the other way. Because it's just a sickness and you get that, and it's only going to get worse for the next 10 days or so because Iowa has a bye this week. So, they're not ranked. Teams will lose this weekend, so they might get 24, 25 ranking next week. Get Oregon at Kinnick Stadium. I was at Kinnick for the Penn State game. It's a great venue. It's loud. It's new. It's the north end zone is new. It will be an electric atmosphere. Absolutely. And that's what college football is about. You want to be playing games in November, which they will be. November 1st, this week, Iowa State plays November 1st. Iowa will play November 8th. You want to play meaningful football. And that's the other thing at Iowa State right now. How meaningful are these games? Well, in the big scheme of college football, they're not. They aren't going to the Big 12 championship. They're not going to the playoff. And that's what's disappointing. So how will the crowd be on Saturday? I'm going as long as I feel better. I just had a conversation with my dad last night about I don't think I'm going to stay in a camper or anything else like that. Just because I don't think people want to sleep, 6, 7 people want to sleep in a camper with me right now, or I cough the whole time and everything. But we'll get up, we'll go, we'll, probably do a little tailgate and then, nothing too much. And then we'll go to the game and we'll come home and stuff and just like that. And use it as it's what I love being inside a college football stadium. I love being in Jack Trice Stadium. As Happy Gilmore said, it's one of my happy places. But not everybody's like that. And if the weather's not going to be great, it's going to be like 47 degrees. So the fair weather fans, and if this game, if you'd have looked August 20th before the season started, this was a marquee game. This could have been, College Game Day could have been here instead of the Cincinnati, Utah game. Big noon kickoff. It's probably always slated for Ohio State, Penn State. Now that game switched, but if for some reason, Arizona State had 0-1 loss or Iowa State had 0-1 loss, big noon kickoff definitely could have probably been here. This was a chance to be a huge game. And last week would have been the same way if Iowa State had taken up their end of the bargain by not losing to Cincinnati and Colorado. Now, Cincinnati is still undefeated in the conference. They have the one loss to Nebraska to open the season at Arrowhead. So Cincinnati loss is what it is. On the road, it stinks. They got punched in the mouth. He came back. The Colorado loss is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. You just can't do that. But, again, I just want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in. Sorry for my voice. Short episode. I haven't talked to Trev in a few days here. Trev, I believe, is planning to be back next week. We'll be get going Tuesday or Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Please rate, subscribe, and tell a friend. That's the big thing. On YouTube, that's a great way to watch it. Any of the podcast players, Podbean, Apple, Spotify, just any of those that you do. It was interesting. I was actually looking last night. 10 people in Brazil listened to my episode or listened to the podcast. I don't know what episodes they listen to, but it just says in the last month where they're from. 10 people in Brazil listen. Thank you. I love seeing that. It's crazy where they get it, how they get it. I'd like to know a little bit more about it, but and again, thanks to Steve Shetler and everybody there that promotes as well. It's always several hundred views there, up to I've even seen over 1,000 views there. So thanks, Steve Shetler. Tune in to Steve Shetler coming up basketball season. I know he's covering some games, and I believe I'm going to be doing the Pekin games. So not every game, but a few games. Those of you that know me, several years ago I did Cardinal basketball. Now I'm going to their rivals, the Pekin Panther basketball games. I'll let you know more about what's going on with that when we get a little bit closer to the season. I know basketball practices will start. Girls start, I believe, on the 6th, the 3rd, and then the 10th, the 10th, and then the boys start on the 17th. They give each team a couple weeks of practice, and then that first part of December, the real things happen. And I believe on the 3rd is when Iowa State plays their first game, and I'm sure the Hawkeyes play real close as well. So, but thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for putting up with my voice. We're 20 minutes in. That's pretty good. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening.